Siri_bot said.
Hi there.
Siri bot has joined. Stream
Okay,
elements.
so this
said.
is...
That bot guy
I'll
is
wait till
now
it's
live
done doing
streaming
all
just
that.
chatting Ashuadi simplifying a constructed language script part 2.
Right, there. So I made a previous video where I was simplifying my Ashuadi writing system, and this is the follow-up to it, the next stage, if you will. Now, I'll recap it a little bit. I created the writing system. It's gone through over 100 revisions to get it to where it is, and I'm quite happy with it. And I made a lot of improvements to it. And then I was looking at it and thinking, you know, I don't think that's right. I don't think I'm looking at it from the right point of view. So I have kind of rethought all that and thought, I'm going to simplify the thing, make sure it works with the idea I have in mind, and then, if necessary, I'll add more elaborate changes to it. But I want to get it down to the basics and make sure it's all working the way I think it should. And then I'll probably go back in and produce a non-simplified version that has all of the more elaborate markers and things like that, featural things really, that I had before. And the reasoning for the simplification is all of those featural things are something that a speaker of the language would not be aware of. So there's no real reason that they should be included in the writing system. But the way I conceived of this in my own world design, this language has religious importance. And students learning the religion would be encouraged to recite texts. And they might not speak Ashuadi at all. So they're the reason that those diacritics and things that marked features would exist, so that people who were not raised in the language could learn to speak it with the correct pronunciation that might be a little hard to pick up otherwise. That was the idea. And I started sort of ass backwards and built the whole thing and then added too much stuff to it. And now I'm purifying it, bringing it back down to the basics, and then I'll look at elaborating it again later, and we'll see what gets retained and what isn't. Now, part of the problem here is the conlang doesn't actually exist. I've made several attempts to come up with a design I like. Had a pretty good one going and then had a hard drive crash and lost everything. But I tried twice more after that and I didn't like any of them. So since this is important to me and I want to make it work right, and I have a writing system that I like, which is very important to me, I'm going to look at the language design again once I've done this. Part of the reason that I like to have a writing system for a conlang is that when I go to document the language, I can include the writing in there along with a romanization of it. And to me, it just looks kind of like it has more authority or consistency or a believability or something like that. And therefore, with each of the conlangs that I've built, I have built a writing system to go with it. And I don't see any reason to change that. So what I'm going to do is simplify this thing, get all the elements that I want in there, and then basically start again on the language. Now, one of the things that I did was decide to add, foolishly perhaps, 2 more vowels to my design. And as a result, I'm going to have to add an awful lot of characters. Now, cut and paste is your friend here, and I can do a lot with that, but it is going to be a fair amount of work. I therefore had to go and add in the glyphs that I would need, even though they haven't been drawn yet. I had to put spots for them. And the first 3 times I tried to do it in FontLab Studio, what I did was go and rewrite the class listings. Here, I'll switch screens. Hopefully I've got the right screen here. Well, maybe not. Because it's not switched over here. Okay. Ignore this down here. I'll get to that in a second. Also ignore those up there. I just noticed them. I have to delete them. These are all the glyphs that I've got. And they're basically either vowel plus consonant or consonant plus vowel for when a syllable is drawn on its own. And then down here, all these ones with, well, you probably can't read it, but .medi indicate forms that occur. That's not a medi there. This is here. I'll bring it up so you can see it. They indicate forms that are going to have another glyph off the end of them, basically. And therefore, they don't end the same way that a syllable on its own would end. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, you'll see it down the road here when I'm busy explaining stuff. But that means that I have to add, ignore the stuff that's drawn in here. That's irrelevant. But these are all going to be replaced. The system drew them automatically. But all the ones that are here and colored here have to be added. And that's going to take a bit of work. However, if I go to my classes, close that, go to classes, if you look over here on the left, you'll see that all these numbers are in gray and white, not red. If there's an error in the count, then they show up as red. So these are all the syllables that can occur here that you could type in and it'll produce a glyph. All the ones that are consonant followed by a vowel. This one here are all the ones that are vowel followed by a consonant. This one here is all the medial syllables that can occur. This is just a list of the consonants, most of which aren't actually drawn up here. And this is the medial form, the ending form of all the consonants. So if I have, well, right here, no, I'll pick a better one. Here, this is MU. No, it isn't. This is MU. If I was spelling a word that was MUS, the system would draw the MU when I typed it in, and then come down here and find the S here and end it with that. So the other glyph would be drawn here. It overlaps slightly in this one zone here, and then this would be drawn over top of it, and it would produce the proper thing. So I have to create all of those too. That's what it boils down to. But I managed to avoid the crashes by adding these in bit by bit, and was able to save it so it wasn't crashing. Basically what happens is if you go in here, say, and add a glyph in here by name, it's just a text file, you cut and paste a name in there, and then you come over here to preview. or features rather, and you compile, he says, hoping it doesn't cause an error, it will find missing glyphs and tell you, do you want to create them? Well, I added them all into the classes, all the missing ones. And when I hit the button here, it would say, here, you're missing these 214 glyphs, I think. Do you want me to create them? And I would say yes, and it would think about it, and then the program would crash. And I did it again 2 other times, adjusting what stuff I had open on my system in case it was a memory thing. Nope, it just crashed. So then what I had to do was list all of the glyphs in, well, you can't see it because I'm doing window capture here, but in Notepad++, and cut and paste ranges of them and add them in manually. But now I have them all here, except there's all this stuff drawn here that I'm going to have to delete. Now, I said I would explain that weird arrangement here. We'll go back to here. This is me attempting to draw the initial, medial, and final form of a glyph to replace using this glyph, which is U, with a diacritic over it, because I want this version to not have diacritics. The original idea for Ashuadi was that it would be sort of a continuous script that drew each syllable together. And therefore, there are initial forms, medial forms, and final forms. But I didn't want to go the way of Arabic and Hebrew and things like that and use diacritics to mark vowels. I have drawn vowels. I originally had only I, A, and U, and now I'm adding E and O. I have a very restricted number of consonants, so by adding in 2 more vowels, I increase the variety of syllables that I can have, and I figured that would, I don't know, make it a bit more flexible. So what I did was take this shape here and copy it, and then mirror it, and then join them together, which is easier said than done. Then I went and took the tail off of another glyph I've got here. Used it in a couple of spots. It isn't the one off of here, but it's very like it. Not that one there, rather. I like to borrow bits of my own glyphs so that I can try and keep the style the same. It's kind of finicky to draw these things, and I want there to be a similarity in the style between glyphs. They're all, within a certain height range, maximum amount of descender, maximum amount of ascender, etc. So I want them to be consistent, and I want them to be stylistically similar so that when you type something out, it looks consistent. So if I'm looking the wrong way a couple of times here, it's because I have my camera placed on this side, and it used to be centered but higher, and I have my old camera placed over here, there, and one of the screens I'm checking is over here, so I keep flicking back and forth between them, and I'm sorry. Okay, so what we're going to do here is chop these up and replace this one here with this one here, basically. I can do that at the start right now and just give myself more window to work with. So, to do that, we just highlight it and hit delete, and boom, she's gone. You probably can't see it very well here. There is a line right here vertically, and that is the 0 axis for the glyph. So when this glyph is entered on the keyboard, it will be drawn from that point to the right. So what I'm going to do is drag this over to here so it's about on the line, and then I can use the arrow keys to just inch it over. And then there's another line here which is the end of the glyph. Anything, well, actually it's the right boundary of the glyph. So the next glyph that appears after it is going to start being drawn here. This line marks where the 0 line will be for the next glyph. So what you can do to avoid them overlapping like that is just drag it over a little bit like that. And now it's here, and any glyph that comes after it will start being drawn here and to the right. And right now, these ones would be drawn too, and I've got to go move them. So that one I can mark as good. Flag, I don't know, green. The color coding doesn't affect the font anyway. It's just a reminder for the user. Previous versions had strong colors that showed up well on video. This current version has these really, really pastel colors, and I haven't figured out how to adjust those to make them darker. There's got to be some way, because I don't like the current color scheme. Now, that means that letter is okay for the moment. But I'm going to have an O medial form and an O final form, and I need to figure out how those work. O medi is right there. So we go back up, go in here, and copy this, control copy, and actually X. And don't do that because it achieves nothing. Go back down here to where I've color-coded these so that I know which ones were changed, basically. Delete, Control V. This is way off because it's in the exact same position it was in before. So I'm going to drag it over to here and line it up more or less with the left. Use the arrows. We'll have to test this. And then move the right barrier, right boundary, I can't remember the term, over to the right. Anyway, so there's some spacing after it. And that means that one is done, and I can flag it green. Now, this is all very, very repetitive stuff, and I'm not going to make you sit through all of it. I'm going to show the idea that I want here and how it's done and go test it and do things like that. But I think a lot of it's going to be finished off camera, so to speak. So, quote single O. You'll see what it's done here. Well, maybe you won't, but what it's done is it's taken the first letter of this and drawn it in here. And then it's taken the new O and drawn it in here, but that's not the way it's going to appear in this position. And then it's still got the leftover one here, and they're all shaded out because they're not copies, they're references to the original, which is probably useful when you're doing a standard font, but not in this case. if I try and delete this, it's going to delete that one too, and I don't want to do that. Well, actually, I probably do want to do that. There is a way to decompose, I think. Boom. Decompose. Now they're separate constituents. I can grab this here. If you double click on the line, it gets the whole thing. And this is a medial, I believe. No, it's just quote single O. So it's going to end. It's going to end with this one here, not that one there. So I can go back in here, get rid of that one, take this one here. No, select the whole damn thing, please. There. Go to Tools, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And that should be more or less the form that I want. So I can always redraw it if it isn't. So I'll select the whole thing and do Control F10. Tiny little numbers on my keyboard. Nope, wrong one. Oh, right. I have a problem here. My computer insists that Windows shortcuts must overrule everything. And I know there's a way to fix that. I fixed it before, but in the meantime, I'm going to have to go to here. So contour, remove overlap. That will join these together, although we want to look at an inconsistency in here and see if we can fix it. Yeah. So grab the cursor, grab that line, delete it, and delete that, and join those together. And if you notice what happened there, the glyph went to be an outline, not gray. That means that you have a broken line somewhere in there, and that glyph will just not be drawn if you enter it. When you join the pieces up again and it turns gray like this, it should mean that everything's okay with your glyph, more or less. There are things that can happen still, but it should be okay. Now I'm going to adjust this slightly, moving that line there over so it lines up with that. And we're going to put this 2 to the right here. And this is now basically done. I will mark that with green. So what I'm doing here is the purpley colored ones are all the glyphs that have been added automatically when I added them in. There's a box you can check and pick a color. The 2 red ones that were here were the medial forms of the vowels that I was creating up there. They're the original design I had. I've replaced this one here. And as I fix glyphs, and I think they're fine, I will flag them as green. So slowly all of this turns green down here. And then eventually when it's all done and I've fixed everything else that I wanted to fix in here, I will take away the color coding and just mark it as none. Usually I use red for things that I need to delete. So for instance, when I loaded this up, I noticed that there's 4 glyphs across the top here that I don't need. So I can highlight those with Control and click and say flag red. And that reminds me that I'm going to get rid of that. This one here, I still have to do something with this before it should be marked green, and it is actually already marked green. The medial form there, is like the form that would be used here for WU. So if I come down here to where is it here? WO. It doesn't have the W part, but it does have the O, but it's the incorrect O. It's not the MIDI form, which would be this one here. So I'm going to mark this as none. So I remember which one I was working on. Go back up. If this looks time consuming, it's because it really is time consuming. Actually, copy that. I should probably make some blanks at the end and just save them in there. Come down here. Excuse me. Oh. Decompose. Highlight. Delete. And paste. Now it's way over to the side, but this is W, so I go up here to W. Oh, W is not defined. Okay, so we'll have to go chop it off the start of something else. Right. That's not the right one. I constantly get screwed up by this. To me, it looks like, I mean, it's obvious here that this is the name of the glyph below it when you highlight it. But when I see them like this, I expect the glyph to be above the name, and it screws me up all the time. Okay, so there is W. This is actually W long A, which is why it's got the long body there. But we only need, say, that much of it. Control copy. Close, because otherwise you get buried in them. Come back down here to the one I'm working on. Control V. It doesn't paste the whole thing in there because it only copies the node lines, so I'm going to need to draw some more. Click there. Out to here. Why did you not do that? Because it's drawing backwards. Okay, now that is a W. This will be the new O. Grab the selector, drag it over to, that seems a bit close. Maybe here. Drag that out of the way so I make sure it doesn't snap onto. Yeah, there. Okay, then we drag this, move it so it overlaps. Doesn't matter how much, as long as it overlaps. Select the whole thing, go to contour, remove overlap. And this now has that as a full letter. Now, this is the MIDI form. So it's going to need a tail on this end as well, I believe. Let me check that. Oh, you'll need the preview. There. So when I type WO, it just draws that because there's no code in here for WO. So we go to here, drag this up out of the way, and syllable CV by format, come down and find W, And I like to keep it all in order just to make it easier to find things. Sub WO by W underscore O. And I'll throw a hash mark at the end of that so I remember which one I've edited. Doesn't really matter. Then we will compile that. Come back down here. You've still got the preview showing there. I don't have all of this working perfectly. Preview. And now if I type in WO, it's drawing WO, but that's not the glyph I just created here. Oh, because it's not WO medi. Right. Okay. So WO. I don't have a glyph for that yet, so it's not drawing it right. It's drawing the O that still has the spare copy in here, which is why I was saying I should make a blank glyph and just store the images in there. But let's say I'm typing TO, still doesn't have it, doesn't exist yet, and then hit W and O. That didn't work either. Bugger. Why didn't it? TAWO. Ha. See, that's TA medi followed by W medi. And it's drawn right. And if I add another A, it switches it right, so it becomes TAWA, which you're not seeing because I've got it scrolled out of the way. Just a sec here. There. TAWA. But if I change that to WO, it draws there. Okay. If the first syllable is TA, doesn't matter. I just wanted to get the medial part. I could probably get rid of that. When I type WO, it does not draw it correctly because I haven't written that yet. But when I add a consonant like N at the end of it, it does draw the medial shape, and it doesn't have the connector here that I was talking about, which is what I'm going to have to add in. But that is the way it should work. If I take off the TA, it should do the same thing. Just WOS. Still missing the connector part, right? Now, I can add that in, and I will. But what I'm going to do is move this back a bit. You'll see that moves those closer together. Give you a bit more space so you can see it. Then what I want to do is add a connector across here. Like that. And you see how it joins together there? It's not actually joined up here, and I could cheesily just leave it, but I'm not going to. So we highlight all of this. We go contour, remove overlap, and now we have this all joined together. And the spacing on the right is about 3, and the spacing on the right here is about 3. So that's where I want it to be, basically, so that it looks pretty consistent here. And it's obvious that this is a glyph, this is another glyph, this is another glyph because it's tighter together. So that means I can now go down here and change this from no color to green. Are you getting an idea of how slow this process might be? Exactly. So that's going to have to be repeated for everything under the sun here. Which is why I'm not going to stream it all, or I'd still be here 60 hours later. I do tend to get sort of a formula for things down the road, and I can speed stuff up. One of the things I could do to speed stuff up here is delete a lot of this stuff because it's wrong. And I want to make sure I get them right. So that one is correct. This one is not. I haven't built the I symbol yet, so I can't do those.
Dubplates _ said, this font looks Arabic inspired.
It is. If you look up Kufic Arabic, I've always thought that that was one of the most beautiful writing systems ever produced by man. It really appeals to me in the stylistic manner it's produced, illustrated. There's some really fancy floreate ones that are quite neat. I don't read Arabic. So what I did was go and do a search for various examples of Kufic Arabic and start stealing shapes from it. And that's what's happened here. And as somebody pointed out to me, my S is actually the Arabic S in Kufic. And if I knew that, I forgot it. But I like that shape. So whatever. So I'm producing my own writing system, but it is definitely inspired by Arabic and another script called Syriac. And this is many iterations from it. The first version I had people who spoke and read Arabic tell me it made them feel dyslexic because it looked like it ought to say something in Arabic, but it didn't, and it was all wrong. And then another bit would look like, so I tried to evolve away from that. One of my iterations of this script was called Add More Pointy Bits, which is why you get things like the tail here, this bit up here, and things like that. All of that stuff was added to make it look a little less Arabic, hopefully. I spent a lot of time revising this and adjusting it and everything else. I've done over 100 iterations of this thing, I think. And I'm pretty happy with most of it, but I can't stop screwing with it too. So that's why there's been so many iterations. But I do like it overall, and although I see things here and there that I would change, like there's something wrong with the A on that there, it's pretty close to what I want. This hopefully will be the last change to the core of the way it works when I'm done it. And there was a more elaborate version of this with a lot of diacritics, and I'm stripping those out here, redesigning it, and then I'll probably end up having to redesign the version with the diacritics, which will mean adding all this stuff back in again. Maybe I'll change the way the diacritics work. I don't know. Diacritics, for anybody who doesn't know the word, just means additional marks, like the dot over a lowercase I. That's a diacritic. The previous version, which was the full version of the script that I had designed before, marked voice with a dot underneath, being a fricative or affricate, a sound change to a stop with a hook over top, the same hook you can see here, like that. And some of them would have both. And I don't know, it just looked really cluttered to me. So I thought I should I should simplify it and take those out. And that's what I'm doing here. But it's time consuming, or it will be. But it is a good vehicle to show off the mechanics of how you do all this stuff. So, I mean, this is an asemic word here, meaning it doesn't have any meaning at all in the language. But if I type W-O, oh yeah, right, there is no W-O. I should define that next. If I type in W-O-N, it makes the symbol for W-O that I just created down here, and the final version of the N, which is right here, and medial. So it draws the first glyph, marked as WO down here, and then there's a bit that sticks out, and that overlaps where the next glyph is drawn, and that's the N is drawn here, and it looks like a solid shape. And that's a syllable in this writing system. And it's designed to try and make everything appear as syllables, so that when you learn the glyphs, it's actually relatively easy to figure out what a word is. Again, though, asemic stuff. I don't have the language. I'm going to redesign it. But let's say like Willy Wonka. Wonka. K-A. There is K-A. So, first syllable, second syllable.
Said, "This is very cool, must be a lot of work."
It has been a stupid amount of work. But when I started out, I was making conlang alphabets, conscript, some people call them, neography, just as alphabets, because I couldn't figure out a way to get stuff to join together. And then I found a cheesy way of doing that, which is you can draw the second glyph back before where it's supposed to draw effectively, and it will look like it's joined together. But that causes lots of problems. And then I learned about Adobe OpenType font scripting, which is the stuff over here in the features file. Let's turn that off by going here. This scripting down here defines how the font works. It's all being done as ligatures. So if you use this in OpenOffice or LibreOffice, it should just work. If you use it in Microsoft Word, then you have to go tell Word to turn on ligatures. Otherwise, it just will fail. This is the only way I've found of getting all this stuff to work right if you're not doing just an alphabet. If you're just doing an alphabet, then you just draw all the glyphs and you're good. No problem. You might still do some of this stuff to select which glyph is drawn, but you don't have to worry about them joining together and overlapping and all that sort of stuff. But all this scripting down here addresses what a person's typing in and which glyph is shown by it. And every time you hit a key, the font will run this script and look for anything that matches the current circumstances and make a change in the display. And this is not the way ligatures are supposed to be used, I'm pretty sure. I'm building whole writing systems based on ligatures, and normally they're used for like contextual changes. You've probably seen fonts when you type out a word like little, L-I-T-T-L-E, that they may have a fancy version of TTL where it's all joined together as opposed to being separate letters, or TT, setting or something like that. Those are alternative contextual forms, ligatures, which can be defined in a file like this. You can even have some that kind of randomize that so that it's not always the same. And again, that sort of stuff is done in here. I'm abusing the hell out of it, and I don't know if the people that designed it ever thought anybody would do this or not. I don't know. But it works. And a slight digression, but there is a standard, excuse me, talking too much, called Unicode, which defines a lot of the world's writing systems. Not all of them, and they're slowly adding to it and things like that. But I can't just create a writing system and get it included in Unicode. I have to build my own font, and I can use it. I can exchange it with people, and they can use it, but it'll never be part of the Unicode standard unless I somehow manage to get as famous as J.R.R. Tolkien. Quenya has a spot in Unicode. I don't think any other conlangs have a writing system included in there. No, because Esperanto uses the standard Latin alphabet. I was going to say Esperanto. Maybe, I think all of the conlangs that are like historical conlangs that I know of are just using a Latin alphabet. So I don't think they require their own special space for it, but I could be wrong. Anyway, I can't do that. The other thing that could be done would be to learn how to make a language pack for Windows or the Mac and include it in that. But I can't find any documentation on that. And if you did that, it would actually change your entire operating system to display in the conlang, and that's could be problematic. You'd have to cover everything that Windows would ever want to write out and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that either, even if I can find it. But I would like to find out how they work. In the meantime, Adobe OpenType font scripting. All praise to whoever came up with this. It's been fascinating. So in this writing system, you have long and short vowels. This section here, for instance, is a lookup, which means that the script will go through everything above there, get down here, and definitely check this each time. So it's a lookup, a name I gave it, which is long vowels, open curly bracket, and at the bottom it's a closing curly bracket, and the name again with a semicolon. And in between it says sub AA by AA, which sounds bad in voice, but if you type the A key, you will get the A vowel in my writing system. If you type another A, you will get a variation of that that represents a long A. I can show it to you up here because it's easy to find. This is A, and this here with the long tail on it is a long A. Now, you only see it like this if it's independent, not attached to anything else, but I had to have a form to show that. So all the long vowels on their own. Oh, I might need to add in EE and OO. I don't know if they're in this or not already. Okay, so there's another thing to check. I got to cover all the possibilities of things that people could type in, or the font is just going to do weird shit when you type some weird combination in. So if we go back to preview, and I switch back to here, and I wipe out Wonka, A, double A, R. It switches to the A with a longer line, and then the R. If I typed AR again, it'll switch it to RAR, right? MAR. You could see it's a short line. If it was MAAR, it would be a longer one. And that is all the stuff that's been defined up here, because I'm drawing at least the start of every syllable with these every possible syllable with these medis. And then up here, what they'd look like on their own. So that there is QA. QA. And it draws that glyph that's up there that I've got highlighted in blue when you type in QA. But if I put a T in, it switches to a version of QA that is prepared to be followed by a T and then adds the T. So you can see QA ends in that circle on the right. It doesn't have any extension out to the right. But when I put a T in after it, it draws a version that has that extension, and then it draws the T to complete the syllable. So I don't know where that is in here, but if I go down here to the medis, they should be in order, but of course they aren't. There, that's QA medi. So medi meaning medial, which is the internal form, if you want. So when I type in QA, it draws the QA glyph, but when I type in QAT, it draws in the QA medial glyph and the T medial glyph. And just to add confusion to things, in normal terms, that T would have been called a final glyph, but I simplified my system. You don't need to know all that. It doesn't matter. And if I go back to the script here and turn off the preview window, and we scroll down to the very bottom, there is some complex little subcode in here that ensures this first one is just to do with one pair of quote symbols up top there. But this stuff here in these 3 lines down here basically ensures that when you start a syllable, it uses the right starting form and displays the correct form with or without an extension to add another letter until you add the other letter, and then it extends. And it will look at that other letter, and if I go back here, this is probably needlessly complex, but I like complex. Okay, so this is QAT, right? Asemic text. If I make that kata with another A, it draws it as QATA. And if I make it Qatar and add an R in, it puts the R ending there. So the idea is that you will be able to learn to read this easier because all the syllables are together in groups. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't actually think it would take all that much to learn to read this for somebody who hasn't been staring at it for a couple of years. I'm not that good at reading it right now because I keep making changes to the sucker, but it's getting better. And I have to cover all the possible options that are going there. And that's why there's so many glyphs here and as much code as there is. So that is going to be the new form for the letter O. And I'm going to have to go back through here, get rid of that, and find everything that ends in an O in here and add to it. And for ones like this glyph here that hasn't been created at all, that's going to be K with a long O. So that's going to mean I put a K in here, put a long line, and then the O. Like these ones up here. This is R followed by an A. And it has an error. Oh dear. Something has malformed in here. So we're going to fix that by basically dragging that down to there. That should fix that. There. Go back to regular zoom. Go back to here. And look at any of the other R's. They all look good. So I don't know what caused that one glitch, but it's fixed. Save font. This stuff is not quick to build the moment you start doing fancy, silly crap like this. At one point, I tried to build a writing system that looked like the Mayan style of art. And I still plan on doing that, but it gets very complex trying to draw line art that can be sort of programmatically packed together. And my first attempt failed, and my second attempt was succeeding. And then I had a hard drive crash and lost everything. But it wasn't very far along. I have created a font that is 4/5 done, maybe, that will let you write Egyptian hieroglyphics and stack them on top of each other and things like that. And that was a lot of fun, too. I didn't have to create the artwork for that, though, because the artwork existed as open source artwork and a font that didn't work, created by an artist who basically did all the illustrations for a textbook on Egyptian hieroglyphics called Gardner's Egyptian, which I have a copy of. So I set myself the task of creating a font that would let you enter any text that was in Gardner's Egyptian. And I kind of burnt out working on that. I haven't picked it up again since, but I think I have the methodology to let you do exactly that when I finish it. And there's no real reason for that, except that I thought people studying Egyptian might want a way to be able to just type it into their computer instead of having to use specialist software to compose it, which is how they do it now. They have to start up a Java program, run it, type in the text that they want using all these complex combinations, and then save it as a graphic, and they can include that in a document. When I'm done my font, if I ever finish it, you can just be writing your document, switch to Gardner's Egyptian, my font, type in the same codes that you learned to use on the Java program, and it will write it all out. Then you switch back to English and carry on typing again. And that kind of works. There's a video on writing Cleopatra's name on my YouTube channel, which, I mean, in case anybody hasn't seen it, and there might be one or two people there.
TFG.
There it is.
I post all of my font-related content to my YouTube channel located here, https://www.youtube.com.
Oh yeah, good. That is the right one. I got another channel for gaming content. So I'm going to have to go through the process of doing this, and then I'm going to have to come up with a design for the letter E and do the whole thing again. This is, excuse me, the letter I or Y in its medial form and end of a syllable. If it's an I, it's got a dot over top of it, but I think I'm going to take that out. And whatever I come up with for an E glyph is probably going to be based on this. I have one design that I kind of liked that basically looks like this doubled with one bit being higher, but I haven't actually drawn it yet. And then I'm going to go plug this in and fix all of these glyphs. But it seemed redundant to try and stream all of that. I mean, I'll do progress reports and things, but it's going to be an endless amount of drudge work. No way around it. So I think that's all I've really got to say or do tonight. There will be a part 3 and however many other parts it takes to finish all this. And then I'll show it all off again. Because I'll have to run through countless tests to see if I've missed anything. And when it's done, I expect I'll upload it to my Patreon Patreon page, and let people download it. Here's the Patreon link. Just
TFG.
Oh, of course.
You can
You're not
support
seeing
me
the
on
chat
Patreon if
when
you
I
like
post
this
the
content.
video
You
on
can
YouTube.
download many
I'll
of
have
the
to
fonts I
include
have
all this
created
stuff
there as
underneath.
well. HTTPS Patreon.com font guy.
The Patreon page has free stuff you can download to play with too. Some of it I ask $1 if you subscribe for a month for $1. That's just because any source I can raise a little bit of money to help fund my hobbies is good. For instance, I'm on version 7 of this software. Version 8 is out. It'll cost me $79 to upgrade that. Well, if I make $79 off the Patreon, I'll put it into upgrading the font software. Apparently it's got a lot of improvements, but I had version 5 before this. I skipped version 6 because I heard there was problems. I got 7 because it supposedly fixed those problems, and they changed the way everything worked. So everything I'd thought I'd figured out, I had to start all over again, basically. And this is complex software. The manual for version 5 was a PDF file. The manual for 6, 7, and 8 is online, so I don't know how many pages it is. But for version 5, it was a PDF that was over 1,000 pages for the manual, which is just friggin' frightening. So I'm barely scraping the use possibilities of this software as well. There's that. I'm still learning stuff about it, and there's a hell of a lot to learn. And there's also very little documentation on how fonts work. I've never had a course on this. I'm just figuring it out myself as I go, basically. Probably getting lots wrong. Anyway, so all these purple ones in here, I think it's 214 glyphs that have to be updated. Something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think there's 16 to a line there, so maybe more like 170 glyphs or something like that. Yeah, a lot of work, anyway. I will come up with a design for the letter E and test that out on a glyph, and then go through and just start fixing all these things. It is a lot of cutting and pasting and consolidating the two pieces. It's not like I have to draw each one from hand. But most of these glyphs in purple you see here were auto added by the font when I created these glyphs, and it tried to be helpful, but I didn't need it to. It isn't being helpful because I'm going to have to delete all of these. As a matter of fact, I could do some of that right now while I think about it. Oh yeah, you have to decompose glyph, select, delete. Decompose glyph, select, delete. And these glyphs will still be here, but I'm going to have to, that's going to be wrong, so we can decompose that. I'm going to have to go through, excuse me, my lad. Oh, I did do it, okay. I'm going to have to go through and adjust each of these things, right and left boundaries and everything. It's going to be a real pain. And then I have to decide, right now it's focused on creating syllables. So if I go down here and type in the letter M, I've entered M, but nothing appears on screen because there's no vowel, because it's not a syllable. If I type in A, suddenly we get MA. If I type in MI, we get MI, MU, we get MU. I can't do ME or MO because I haven't drawn them yet, and I haven't programmed them in. But that's the way those would be written. I have to decide if I want to have an initial form for M where it just starts and then gets the A or the I or the U added. And I should probably do that. There should be a version that looks like the glyph on the left with no vowel attached and no extension. Even though people are not going to be writing stuff like that, hopefully. But I should do that because otherwise it's kind of weird to type in a letter M and have nothing show up on your screen. And then if I type in AA, I get the long A version of it. M. So that would be mom. Make it mat, like the Egyptian goddess. It feels odd to type in the letter and get nothing. So I think I'm going to have to do that too, which means I've got to go up here to the top. And all of the lowercase letters that are here have to be defined as well. The reason it drew all those fragmented things down here is because this is where I decided to design the letter O under O. But normally it would be there. That's right, because it would be an initial vowel that would be drawn. So there's A. That was what I was going to do for E, but I don't think I'm going to. This is I. Oh, you saw. And that's U. So if I go back down here and type them in with spaces, you have A, E, which is not the way I'm going to do it. I, O, U, A, misdrawn there. Because the U is misdrawn, I think. I, U. The long form versions have this tail off to the right. That error in there is caused by the letter O having this bit here. So that isn't a graphical glitch. That's a programming or design glitch because I haven't fixed it yet. I am running out of voice here from talking so much. I talk a lot more doing these than I do when I'm doing my game streams. So I should learn to sit with water nearby, not coffee, probably.
Red Sledge BLU said, "What's going down, saucy thickness?"
Hello, how you doing? This is the font part of that font guy. I create languages and writing systems as a hobby, and this is me working on one of my writing systems. I used to stream this stuff on YouTube, but the algorithm did not like me. Probably because I don't fit a
Red Sledge
category.
BLU said, "All of the font got it?"
Yep. So this is my writing system here. These are all glyphs up here. It's called Ashuadi. Well, the language will be. And that's what it looks like. And yes, it looks a lot like Arabic. It's based off the shapes of Arabic, but I don't read Arabic, and I deliberately avoided learning how to read Arabic. And apparently, as somebody pointed out, my letter S here is like the Arabic S, so that much stuck, and subconsciously I went, oh, well, that's how I'm going to draw an S, and I didn't realize that that's how it's drawn in Arabic. Kufic Arabic, I think, is one of the most beautiful writing systems I've ever seen. Regular Arabic is quite cool, neat, no question. I really like the way Kufic looks. And there's another type of it as well that I really liked. I can't remember the name. Anyway, I decided to build this based off the shapes of Kufic and then inspired by another writing system called Syriac. And I made a very elaborate, complete version of this, and now I'm busy making it simpler because I overdid it. And it may not look simple because there's a lot of glyphs here, but it's not that complex.
I've killed a few Arabs in wartime, but it is a beautiful language.
Well, I'm sorry I had to kill anybody in wartime. I understand. The language is neat, yes. I like the writing system more than anything else. There's a lot of languages I really, really like. And I did try to learn Arabic 40 years ago. Never got anywhere. I also tried to learn Hebrew, German, Turkish, Japanese, and Swahili. I'm lousy at learning languages, but fascinated by them, which is highly ironic. Anyway, I'm going to say done because I've covered the stuff I was going to show, but it's getting late. It's going to take hours to actually do all of the changes that I have slated to make this work. I got to redraw each of these glyphs here, and I've only redrawn actually effectively one of them because that one is going to change even though it's been marked green.
Red Sludge BLU said, "My bad, didn't mean to be that G."
Oh, okay. Okay, well, it's fine. It's fine. I've had a long day too. I'm going to call it a night. This will appear on my other YouTube channel, the one for constructed languages, sometime tomorrow. And I will be streaming City of Heroes tomorrow night.
Red Sludge BLU.
We'll see you then.
Said, "Eat and sleep well."
Oh yeah, you bet. Had a great dinner. Go to sleep like a rock, I hope. Got to work tomorrow. Not for very long. So, have a good one, folks. And we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.